Yeah, hello, Leonardo Cella. It's my great pleasure that you are with us today.
My pleasure.
And
Thank you.
of course, to interview a great violinist like you, it's a great pleasure, really. I was impressed, or I am impressed with what you have done during this short period of time with the other musicians. It was something wonderful.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce you shortly, just to
Please.
give the people an idea about your fascinating career. You start since you were child, I think,
Yeah,
because
I was
you
5.
wrote in your biography that you start to play with the orchestra
Yeah,
since 10 years old.
yeah, I was. Yeah.
Great. I mean, what could you play at 10 years
I
old?
did a Vivaldi concerto with the orchestra of the Conservatoire in Pesaro, my city.
Uh-huh.
It was definitely one of my most touching moments as a child.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is deserved to write it in your biography. Great. And then you studied with Di Velce.
I studied here in Hanover with Professor Vengin.
Ah, okay,
And
Vengin.
yeah, I did
Yeah,
violin with him,
Christoph Vengin.
and Vengin, and quartet with Professor Oliver Ville, the
Okay.
master in quartet.
At the University of Music, Drama and
Theatre.
Media in Hanover.
Yeah.
That was in 2011 when you graduated.
Yes, when I graduated.
And then you received many first prizes, not second, but first prizes. Also, that's great.
That's what we write in the biography.
Yeah. And this is the truth, I'm sure. And then you received a scholarship of Joachim Menowin.
Yeah, in the
Uh-huh.
Manuin, yeah.
Yehudi, sorry,
Yehudi.
yeah, Yehudi Menowin Foundation
Yes, it
in
was with
Hanover.
my quartet at the time.
Exactly. So would you please tell us about now? You told me that you are professor in Italy,
Yeah,
in the Conservatorio di
Cosenza.
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 Yeah.
It's a nice pleasure for me to be here. And yes, I was called by the Conservatorio like 2 years ago. That's my 3rd year,
Uh-huh.
except of the Corona time, which is quite
Yeah.
difficult to teach with. But
Exactly.
I teach strings music, chamber music for strings. I have exactly, and mostly is string quartet.
Uh-huh.
What my life was based on in the last
Exactly.
10 years, almost, like as I playing with my quartetto, and then becoming professor for that in Cosenza. Yeah,
Great. Do you teach also contemporary music or just
of course.
contemporary music?
We also do. I mean, the students has to have different periods, starting from not of
Exactly.
course with classical quartet like Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven, but they have also as a exam also pieces after. I mean, already in the 20th century, and we did also some contemporary
Fantastic.
pieces. Yeah.
But do you, for example, do you teach something about microtonal music? Your instrument is a microtonal instrument, actually.
Well,
we can
I
call
don't
it.
know if it's something close, but generally in the quartet, string quartet, we use the natural intonation.
Exactly.
So when I can make an example if you want, but
Yeah.
Can I-
I mean,
I mean,
I'll
if-
try to bring the microphone to
Yeah.
you.
basically when you have to tune a major third,
Yeah.
so we have, for example, this G is like say on the 0, yeah, it's green with the machine, yeah. But if I put this B also green, it means with a good force on the E, then the third is not really clear because it's obviously too high. So it's because it's a major third, right?
Yeah.
So what we do is in a major third, for example, to put down exactly 13 cents of the tone
Yeah.
there. So and then we keep the violin ring. Otherwise, it's just like a piano.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's probably the closest thing of quarter tone
Yeah.
that I'm teaching all the time. And that's, of course, is with the major is minus 13 cents of the tone. With the minor is plus 13. in the septim chord is minus 27, and then of course we are getting a bit crazy, because then
Exactly.
the tonic of the chords change and becomes a third, and then you have open string which cannot be changed. So
It's between
it's the
well-tempered
nightmare
and
to play in quartet and to teach, but I do that. And,
yeah, exactly.
and actually, yeah, I mean, we are used to hear overtones, and I mean, it's in a way where the quartet are based. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, for example, do you have a problem when you are playing a concerto with piano, because piano is tempered instrument or
Well,
tempered
I
instrument?
can say some very funny story about that.
Yeah.
Then, when I was telling to one of my professors, then in that exactly this question,
Yeah.
he said to me, "Well, but in that case, it's obviously the piano that's out of tune."
Exactly. This is what I say always.
But actually, no. I mean, in that case of circumstances, I would at least to have the open string
Yeah.
exactly like a piano. That I also teach in the quartet. We have to have a line where to find the right intonation. Otherwise, we get only in the theory that is like that. But then in
Yeah.
in the practical things,
Exactly.
it's just out of tune.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it depends also on which movement of sonata you're playing. If you are, in a quartet, when the bass has a tonic of a chord and the violin has very slow motive and
Exactly.
touches the third, then of course should be, if it's major third, a bit lower. But
Exactly.
if it's a triola places fast in one movement, probably it doesn't make sense to do that.
Because I always
because the ear
heard, yeah, exactly.
doesn't
I heard
have the
something
time.
like dissonance,
Yeah.
and I thought that perhaps it's my mistake that I hear this dissonance, or perhaps there is something wrong with the piano or with the violinist. And then at that time I was young, and then I noticed that's not my fault. It's not my mistake,
Yeah.
but it's the tuning system's mistake.
Yeah.
So we are using two tuning systems in a piece, in the same piece, which makes
Yeah.
this dissonance.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the theory, that we can talk with a good glass of wine about intonation, and we still
Exactly.
don't get the way out. But at some point, you have to give also as information to your student. Okay, let's keep that G like
piano.
that's green one, and then
Yeah.
we go on. Yeah, and it's.
Yeah.
For example, there is another very famous string quartet from Beethoven, Opus 127, that starts with E flat major chord, but we unfortunately have the open string of G, so we have to push up the E flat, otherwise it's
Yeah, it would
out
be
of tune.
dissonance. Yeah.
But then after that, the open G becomes the tonic of the chords, and then you have to, in a way, find a way in which you play still in tune
Exactly.
and makes
Exactly.
in that with these rules.
So as far as we are talking now about microtones, do you think that here in Europe they don't give microtone enough what it deserves, let's say? Like it should be taught more. It should be the university should make these things clear for students.
I mean, that's interesting question. I mean, I can answer with as a two different person, as a teacher,
Yeah.
and like a philosophic way to
Yeah.
think. I say yes, definitely, but very often I see that sometimes. I mean, I'm talking about my teaching experience, and you have no time to get really concentrate on a G major chord to have
Yeah.
it very in tune with the string quartet. I mean, it depends of the amount of time and which programs the student has to do that. Of course, it's something very interesting, and that will help to open ears also to
Exactly.
students, not only to.
Do you think there is a plan, for example, like teaching other cultures also microtones, like raga, the Indian raga, the maqam, the Arabic maqam, or Turkish maqam, or the dastka, the Persian dastka?
Mhm.
Is there any plan, do you think, or in the future would be a plan for in the conservatories here in Europe, or no one is interested because they have good, let me say, they receive people from all of the world, students who would like to study the old traditions?
At the moment, I'm also taking part of the Erasmus project with my conservatory. So I'm doing that exchange with a lot of culture. And in last year, I had a Turkish girl in my class, which she was absolutely more close to that sensibilities, and she brought also that. Of course, could be a wish that we could develop also in Europe with this kind of technique and this kind of the attitude on hearings. That otherwise, I mean, to say like that, let's study quarter tone, that doesn't make any sense. You have to have it in your culture. So we have the tonality in our culture because it was since when we were born that we listened to that. First five first, or I mean, and in the
of course, I mean, in the history, if you go back to the European history, there were, or is still in Romanian, in some parts in Italy, microtones. But now I'm talking about interculturality. I mean, accepting others' culture and add it to my culture. You know, for example, even the most instrument that European use came from other parts of the world. I mean, in the orchestra, you find many instruments. The Egyptians used many instruments before. The Babylonians used also instruments before some instruments here. So it's a kind of culture heritage from generation to the next generation. And so do you think there would be a possibility, for example, perhaps today we had this chance to mix between European culture and other culture. Do you think that it's interesting for European to do such projects, or no, we are satisfied with our culture and...
I mean, that's the basics. That's the reason why we do music.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I would say that is obvious answer to that. The point is always that we have to educate people already when they are young to that. That's it.
Okay, so we can talk about the project in this case.
Yeah,
we
I mean,
now the project.
I'm on it.
How do you find it? Do you think?
I mean, I learned a lot. I mean, it was for me something. Okay, quote-unquote, we read with what are there, and we are talking. But now, I mean, with these instruments that he was canon that he was playing, and then you can tune that. I mean, of course, was not easy to get unison with the other violin or with because we are not used to it.
Canon, it means a law, and it came from the same origin from canon.
Canon,
So you are using a law or a method. So it has the same meaning. But I think it was also for them something very interesting to play also with professional quartet.
Hopefully.
Exactly. So do you think, for example, if you would have the chance to go to an Arab country and to play such a music, would you be enthusiastic, or no, you are...
Of course. Of course.
Okay, that's great. And in this case, for example, would you ask for more theories in microtonal music and the harmonies of microtones? Unfortunately, many times or it is written like X harmony, which I find it's a wrong name, because there is a harmony in microtones. Of course, there is dissonance and consonance, but do you think in the future would be something like theories, like, as we know in Europe, there is tonic, subdominant, dominant sevens. So,
but that would even help, I think, in that case, because I mean, I can tell you how to arrange a fifth or a fourth or a third major or minor or something, but it was kind of difficult, I have to say, to get the perfect interval between the quarter tones.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I would appreciate.
Leonardo, it was my great pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I hope we will see you again, and we will play again, perhaps also in an Arab country.
Let's do it.
Thank you.